The woke guys.
Well, so they kill me. They want to kill me just as bad.
Probably.
Oh, they really do.
No, you've been very outspoken on the woke stuff. Big time.
Yes. What liberals believe, woke is something completely different. It's very often the opposite.
Meanwhile, this was not an MS-13 gang member, and you damn well know that.
Oh, come on.
He was not.
Okay,
and
so keep defending this guy.
The administration admitted this was wrong. In America, we have due process, and we are a land of law and order. We are a land of law and order.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl Mika, and we're back for another Red Cup Talks because this is where truth, pop culture, and politics meet. So I want to come on and talk about all of the infighting that's happening right now in the Democratic Party, okay? It's the old guard against the new guard, you know, your 35-year-olds versus your 60, 70, 80, 90, Joe Biden. Okay, all of these people, when I tell you they are fighting right now, they are fighting for that number one spot, okay? And it is getting dirty. They are talking about each other, and they're even talking about primarying each other. When I tell you it's getting dirty, it's getting dirty. But the number one culprit right now is Bill Maher, and he had the nerve to sit down with the Democrats and liberals' number one enemy, Charlie Kirk. I want you guys to see what Bill Maher and Charlie Kirk had to talk about when it pertains to the woke side of the progressive Democratic Party. Watch.
We have different jihadis that want to kill me. The purple-haired jihadis, the woke guys.
Well, they kill me. They want to kill me just as bad.
Probably.
Oh, they really do.
No, you've been very outspoken on the woke stuff. Big time.
Yes. I mean, and they, just the way within a religion, they hate their own apostates more. I would say they hate me more because I'm supposed to like get on the short bus to Crazy Town with them, and I won't. And yet I'm still a liberal. And still, like, you know, I mean, we probably could argue all day about Donald Trump and what he's doing, which I'm not down with. But, you know, it's always the people who are closest who think, oh, gosh, you shouldn't have. You're a traitor somehow.
I was going to ask, is it because they thought you were one of them and that...
I am one of them. They're not one of me. I'm okay. It's the liberals who have...
So they've left you, not you left.
Yeah, well,
I
feel like there's... Liberal and woke are two completely different things. It was a theme of my last stand-up special that I just did a few months ago. And it's basically, I mean, it wasn't the whole special, of course, but it was a large part of it devoted to that, to proving that case that, you know, what liberals believe, woke is something completely different. It's very often the opposite of it. You know, liberalism is, let's live in a colorblind society. That's the goal. Woke's goal is, we see race everywhere.
Race obsession.
Yes. Okay. So that's not liberal. You changed. Liberal is there a two-state solution. Woke is river to the sea. Okay. So just don't take my word and say you're that. You took this and took it to, you got off the F train, you fell asleep, and you got off the 20 stops too far, and don't blame me for that.
All right, so you guys just saw that. You saw Bill Maher be able to be level-headed with a conservative that he doesn't agree with pretty much on most things. However, they both do agree that the woke crowd, the progressive crowd, is just too much. All right, they're too obsessed. They're too Trump deranged. They're just Trump, 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 Trump. And I'm so glad that Bill Maher is able to recognize that, because you can have a dissenting voice. We don't have to agree, but God, don't be deranged. Now, let's talk about the new guard of the Democratic Party, all right? David Hogg, AOC, all of those type of folks are the new guard, and they're really progressive, okay? Extra woke, and of course, they don't do anything. I just did a video on AOC not doing anything, so check that out when you get a chance. However, AOC, we know what she's about, but David Hogg, I want you guys to see why he's pissing off the entire Democratic Party. Watch.
I guess I want to ask, how are you making the choice of who to endorse? Is age the only factor here? And also, how are you making the choice of who to challenge in a primary?
Absolutely. Well, look, I think the first most important thing here is to understand it isn't necessarily just out with the old and in with the new. I would say it's out with the ineffective and in with the effective. That is what we are doing here. Far too many people in our party, our approvals are awful. right now. Any person that has eyes can see that. We are at 27% approval with our base, and we need dramatic change, especially in our frontline districts as well, because people want to see that we are fighting for them. And far too many of our young people feel like we've given up on them. They feel like we're not here fighting for them. And they feel like the American dream is dying before them. And we need to
But
show that
David,
the Democratic Party is here to revive it.
All right, so you guys just saw that. You saw David Hogg sit there and say $20 million is going to go towards getting out Democrats, not Republicans, okay? When I tell you that they are pissed off about that because he plans on spending all of that money to get out the old guard. He doesn't want them there. He doesn't like them, okay? And when I say they keep asking, well, what is the criteria? He said, yeah, old and ineffective. Yeah, he's talking about your Chuck Schumers, your Maxine Waters, all these people that just have seats for no reason. And they're not doing anything. They're not being effective. Now, one of our favorite Democratic old fogies is James Carville. And when I tell you he did not like what David Hogg said or is doing, he had a lot of words for him and even calling him a twit. Watch.
Somebody sued David Hogg. He's an officer of the Democratic National Committee. He is the vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee, and he's running against other Democrats. I would like to know, and you went to law school, does he have a fiduciary duty toward Democrats? If you work for News Nation, you can't promote CNN. That's because you work for somebody else. You have a fiduciary duty to your employer, which anybody can understand. He's being paid to run against other Democrats. I think it's an outrage. I don't know if I have standing, but I might give the DNC $10 and sue him. He's a contemptible little twerp, if you ask me.
Sue his ass, Jim. I'll have you on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, I might. I don't know if I have standing, but somebody can standing.
Sue his punk ass. Start it right on this show.
Child, the ghetto if I ever seen it, okay? This is just a mess. However, James Carville, when he called that man a twit for being young, and James Carville is like, Crip keep, Anyway, when I tell you, when David Hogg heard what James Carville had to say, I had to go get my popcorn. Watch.
We asked James Carville about it the other day. We couldn't get you. We couldn't book you that day for whatever reason.
Rest assured, he's my biggest fan.
Well, so here's James Carville. Here's what he had to say about your idea. Take a listen.
The most insane thing I ever heard is the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee is spending $20 million running against other Democrats. Are we supposed to run against Republicans?
What's your response?
What's his plan to deal with our 27% approval rating? That's my question to him. The fact of the matter is right now, our party is in a crisis. We are seeing people lose faith in our party. They're losing faith in democracy across the country. And we need to make sure that we're getting people to vote for Democrats, not simply because we're not Donald Trump, but because we have a better message, a better option for them, not simply the less bad of two options, as I think Carville tries to promote when he says, well, we just shouldn't say anything. Carville believes in a politics of being timid, of hiding. I believe in fighting. And that is what people want to see right now from the Democratic Party. We just saw an example of that with Senator Van Hollen going to El Salvador to say, we need to meet with this man. And yes, Democrats obviously are in the minority right now, but let's be clear, we cannot win back the majority if we do not convince the American people that our party offers something that isn't just not Donald Trump, but is substantially better than Donald Trump, that fights to lower costs for Americans across the country, whether it's healthcare, housing, or the foundational building blocks of the American dream that feels so out of reach for people, or addressing gun violence. We can't simply just hide, as Carville repeatedly promotes, not to mention the fact that, frankly, he has not won an election since before I was born. I think it's time for some new voices in our party.
When were you born?
2000.
Well, I guess that. So anyway, I can hear James Carville's head exploding all the way from New Orleans when you called him timid. And James, you're welcome back on the show next week. And
Happy to talk more.
When I tell you at the end of the day, that man said, you haven't won an election since before I was born. I was born in 2000. Good Lord. James Carville is a Crip keep, okay? He is literally Tales from the Crypt Keeper. All right. He's been here since before the Anakis came. All right. He's been here at the time of Jesus. All right. He has been here probably when dinosaurs walked the earth. That's how old James Carville is. All right. The old guard doesn't want to listen to this, don't want to listen to that. I don't see how he's going to move forward. However, I'm here for it. Everything he says is spot on about the Democratic Party. All right, so if it wasn't enough that James Carville and David Hogg are beefing, let's go ahead and get into the fact that Hakeem Jeffries is annoyed with him. Donna Brazile, another old fogey that should have been in jail, after that whole Hillary Clinton giving her the question scandal. I digress. David Hogg has to deal with the fact that everybody is upset at him and for what he wants to do in his plans. I want you guys to see David Hogg's response to Hakeem Jeffries and him being annoyed with him. And then watch Donna Brazile just come in and say whatever she wants to say because she knows better. And don't forget, you cannot throw out the 92%. They have to have their DEI seats. Watch.
We cannot just be the party that is against Donald Trump. We have to be a party that doesn't have a 27% approval rating from our own base. That is not a survivable future. And the way that we change that is making sure that we have some different characters. We talk in Democratic politics all the time about it's the messaging, it's the messaging, it's the messaging. You can have Shakespeare write the best script in the world. If you have bad actors, it doesn't matter.
So let me just follow up for a second, because you're talking about this effort that you're leading. It's going to include going after Democratic incumbents. You say in safe seats, in safe seats, because it's time to get. We have this seniority politics. You're trying to get some fresh blood into the Democratic system. You heard Hakeem Jeffries. He actually seemed a little irritated with you or with the effort. He's like, I think we should focus on beating Republicans, not on beating Democrats.
I think it's going to be a hell of a lot harder for us to defeat Republicans with a 27% approval rating, where we cannot simply go out there and say, look, guys, we're not Donald Trump. Vote for us. We need to show people how the way that Democrats fight for democracy is by using democracy to revive the American dream.
They're losing
Donald, what's wrong? Yeah, go ahead.
They're losing trust in all of our institutions, the media, business, whole civil society. We're in a crisis. I don't know if we want to call it a constitutional crisis, but we're in, as former President Biden was here, an inflection point. Look, I think what David is trying to do is to not just help to re-energize the party, but to help rebrand the Democratic Party. The concern that officers of the DNC right now, they have signed a neutrality pledge. David did not sign the neutrality pledge. So he's in hot water with Ken. I told him he threw a rock in the water, and him and the two of them and the officers, they got to get out of the hot water. But that's not my position right now. My position is many of these so-called safe blue seats, and I can get in trouble. Many of them are seats that women and minorities finally had an opportunity to come and sit in, because there were no seats at the table for us. So before you start wiping clean the menu and the plates and the seats, be very careful, because many of those seats are in districts where we are.
She's basically saying, yeah, you need to watch it because a lot of those seats are in Black districts, and preferably a lot of those seats are Black women, okay? And quote unquote minority. So yeah, he's going to have to watch it because you piss off the 92%, then they don't vote. And then who you got? Now, last but not least, I want to get into right in the same segment, the back and forth between David Hogg and his wokeness and a Republican, and what they would do if they had a person on the Republican side trying to primary their people with $20 million of their own money. Watch.
Party Chairman Joins, how would you handle a vice chair who was going to primary?
Well, I'll answer and then I'll explain it. I mean, unfortunately, David, I'd have you removed from the party because I think, number one, I think you're sincere. I don't question that. I think you're right. The Democrats are a complete mess. They have no movement.
I don't think that's exactly what he said.
They've got no. Well, he said they've got no message. They've got no movement. They've got no leader. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than that. I mean, you're defending Harvard. You're traveling to El Salvador for MS-13 gang members. But here's the point. You're taking $20 million. If I'm looking at someone, my vice chair, the RNC, taking $20 million for another effort, it's $20 million out of the DNC's pocket. You can't be on the board of the Fishing and Forest Company and on Greenpeace at the same time. There are places for the groups to hold the party accountable. I think it's right.
Yeah, let me push back against that. This was not an MS-13 gang member, and you damn well know that.
Oh, come on.
He was not.
Okay,
and
so keep defending this guy.
The administration admitted this was wrong. In America, we have due process, and we are a land of law and order. We are a land of law and order. And this administration is repeatedly showing time and time again, they do not care about what the Supreme Court says. They do not care about the rule of law. And you cannot defend sending people to another
CNN
country.
just did a poll
To
that said
another
that
country where they
most
don't have
Americans
rights,
think
where
that
he's being
all
denied
illegal
counsel,
immigrants
due process,
should be
and so much
deported,
more.
by the way. So you're losing your effort. So if you want to try to defend the constitutionality of deporting a illegal immigrant that's here,
He took
a lot of time to come
every
after
single
me.
year.
He's here illegally. The Intel community, every Intel community agency and the White House say he is a member of MS-13.
Hey, right. Okay, right.
This guy, David Hogg, he's pissing them all off, okay? And the Republicans, they are just loving it, okay? Because he's going to primary, like I said, his own people, because he wants them old fogies up out of there, all right? Dana Brazil, you can't do nothing, okay? Hakeem Jeffries, you know, the Walmart Barack, you can't do nothing, all right? And of course, James Carville, the Crypt Keeper, that's all you can keep because you don't run the party, all right? And the young woke folks, they are taking over. Y'all decided to go woke, just like Bill Maher said, and you're losing the party. And their message is going to go forward. I think the young guy is going to take it over, but we'll see because I think the old fogies are going to fight back. All of them, including James Carville. However, as always, I could be wrong. So you guys get down in the comments, like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know what you thought about Bill Maher and Charlie Kirk's conversation about the woke left. And then let me know what you think about David Hogg, okay? The VP chair of the DNC, pissing off everybody. You know, James Carville, Donna Brazil, Hakeem Jeffries, you know, pissing off everybody because they're young and they are the future of the party. And they want the old fogies out. You guys get down in the comments, like, comment, and subscribe. It's your girl, Mika, and I'm out. Peace.